So today we finally had the big Vortiger reveal stream. They showed us a whole bunch and gave us a whole lot of information on lore and character design, but what I cared most about was the gameplay, so that's what I'm going to be talking about most in this video. I'll be pointing out most of the highlights at the start and won't be going into everything since we won't get to play them for about a week, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it. So of course we're going to start off with the Vortiger. There's a lot to like about him at first glance, so let's go through what he's got. Of course with that huge kite shield comes a full block, and his full block is called the Bulwark stance. Vortiger can move around with his full block activated while being able to block basically everything that comes his way. Now the thing that makes it unique is the Bulwark counter, which essentially counters almost every attack including unblockables in this game. I'm not sure if it counters absolutely everything like Nusha's traps, all the sweeps, kicks, and grabs. It looks like it can, but the thing we do know is that guard breaking is the counter. I like that it can counter and flip multiple enemies at once, as it sort of adds to the tankiness. Also from the Bulwark stance is the Bulwark slash, which is a feintable unblockable heavy that drains a fair bit of stamina. Now it looks like the stance can be activated pretty quickly, which is good especially in team fights or ganks, but using that counter seems as risky as using Aramusha's blade blockade. It'll be interesting to see how people adapt to the stance and learn how to use it effectively. Next, let's talk about the rest of his kit outside of Bulwark stance. So of course he has a shield bash, why wouldn't he? He can access it from a forward dodge after a light attack or soft feigning a heavy. It looks relatively fast and it confirms a light attack, but if you want you can throw out a heavy. It isn't confirmed though. It doesn't look like there's any special property to it. It looks like it's just another bash that confirms damage. Now we'll have to wait and see how it feels to use and go up against. Speaking of bashes, his zone is also a bash. I'm not really sure why though. It does chain into a light finisher. I'm thinking maybe it's to hit someone who's externally blocking you, but he also has the shield bash. So again, I have no idea why the zone is a bash rather than a zone attack that clears minions or pikemen. I don't know, maybe there's something I'm not seeing. It reminds me a lot of Gladiator zone attack, except the second attack is a manual input. As for his attacks, he is a 2-attack chain hero. His light openers have superior block and his heavy finishers are undodgeable, which is nice to have. Again, it'll help with team fights. He doesn't have a really deep moveset. It's not too long or complex, and watching it probably doesn't do it as much justice as playing it. I like the way he looks. He does look very defensive and his openers look like they're going to be bashes, which isn't too new to For Honor. His feats are way different though. He can give shields to his allies, take shields from his enemies, heal himself. I think having him and Jang Jun on the same team will be a lot of fun. It looks like the Bulwark stance is the main focus of Vortiger. Now on the Shugoki, there's a lot to talk about with Shugoki. He looks way more aggressive now. They got rid of the annoying parts of Shugoki, so his passive hyper armor is finally gone. It's been moved to his regular attacks as hyper armor, so he can still trade, and the one-hit KO is gone. His health has been reduced to 140 now that super armor is gone. It looks like the goal of these changes were to make Shugoki more threatening from neutral. The biggest changes to me are how heavies work. So the heavies can now be feinted after they become unblockable, or they can be soft feinted into Demon's Embrace. The uncharged heavies are also much faster along with his light, so you can catch players who fish for parries. His light attacks have been sped up to 500 milliseconds, so they're not complete parry bait, and his follow-up heavies can be charged to unblockables. On top of this, the headbutt can now follow up heavies and lights even on whiff or block, but it's not confirmed and no longer pushes the opponent back. Instead, it'll stun the opponent for a bit, take 50 of their stamina, and allow Shugoki to go for a mix-up. And I honestly really like this. It makes Shugoki more of a threat in a 1v1 and even in team fights, as there's just more he can do. He didn't get any brand new attacks, they just worked on what he had, and there's nothing wrong with that. They also worked on some of his animations so that everything looks smoother and it does look really good. They even changed the animation on Demon's Embrace. Speaking of Demon's Embrace, it can now be interrupted by anyone, even teammates, which is a necessity now that it's easier to land and it's no longer a death sentence when you get grabbed by a Shugoki. It is weaker though, only doing 25 damage and healing for 25 health, which I feel may be just a tad too weak, and it also doesn't hurt him on whiff. His zone also has been changed to be one attack at 600 milliseconds and can be followed up. I see people disappointed with the new Goki changes, but honestly, I really like them, and I look forward to using him now. He may not be the best hero in the game, but I think he's so much better to play as and against. Fights won't be so slow now that Shugoki doesn't have to stop the fight every few seconds and can actually land attacks and force his opponents to do something. And without that super armor, his opponents won't need to constantly try to take the armor down. One thing that came to my mind a lot while watching Kitty use Shugoki in the exhibition matches were how dangerous he'll be externally. If he's behind you or you can't see him, you have to worry about the unblockable, the headbutt, Demon's Embrace, or a guard break. Now onto the Warlord and Peacekeeper changes. They were not reworks, they were just buffs or improvements to try and make these heroes more viable. So let's start off with Peacekeeper. She's gotten damage buffs across the board so that she doesn't have to land so many attacks to land a kill. She also can land a side heavy from guard break now so that she can grab some more executions. A top heavy does more damage, but it isn't guaranteed on guard break. She needed this change badly. Executions are important in team modes, especially in Breach, as it keeps someone out of the fight and gives health. Peacekeeper could only light attack or stab before, so this is a really good change. She can also get a zone attack from the guard break if she wants to. As for Warlord, as expected, he got his crashing charge nerfed, but not as heavily as I thought. So they slowed it down a bit so that you can react to it if you see it coming, but it's not slow to the point where it's useless. It hits at 500 milliseconds now rather than 300. I think that if you're out of stamina, crashing charge can still cause some trouble for you. Other than that, they gave Warlord some well-deserved damage buffs on his superior block lights and heavy openers and finishers. Warlord also finally got a light chain and a heavy chain, which were needed for such a long time so that follow-ups aren't so telegraphed. Another big thing to me is that full block costs less stamina to enter and doesn't give you that long stamina penalty after you leave. Also, the dodge heavy can't guarantee a headbutt and the zone attack is undodgeable. The changes to these heroes are to try and bump them up a bit. They're not supposed to be these grand reworks or anything. There's also a whole bunch of weapons coming at the start of the season, along with the Wu Lin getting a new armor set. The new map looks great as always, and my favorite change of the season will also be available, and that's that they'll finally be changing the way the main menu hero showcase works. For the first couple of weeks, they'll be showing Black Prior at an increased rate on the main menu, but after that we'll see some more diversity so that we don't have to see Nusha 7 out of 10 times. Bots are also receiving a nerf, so level 2 and level 3 bots defense won't be so perfect anymore, and they'll allow you to land some more attacks. On top of this, there will be a ton of bug fixes. So now onto my thoughts really fast. I like what's coming in Season 9. I'm glad that Shugoki is a bigger threat now, and I'm glad that Warlord and Peacekeeper are a little better, and I'm excited to see how Black Prior plays. I can't lie to you guys though, I want to be honest, even though this is just like a first impression, and my opinion will probably change after I play him, but I'm afraid of his small kit so far. I really wasn't expecting his quote-unquote gimmick to be so defensive. I mean, he's got the huge shield, but I still wasn't expecting it. It looks like the bashes are going to be his go-to opener in ones while he helps out in group fights. There was a part of me that was hoping he would use his shield to attack as some sort of soft feint attack rather than a bash. Bulwark stance looks really cool though, and again, I'm hoping it's a lot of fun to use and feels really heavy, if that makes any sense, as it looks like they wanted Black Prior to be tanky. I don't think any one thing about Vortiger looks broken or too strong, but he does look like he'll be a problem for players who don't like going up against heroes like Valkyrie or Conqueror with the way his bashes work. The first thing I noticed though is how tall he is. He's just as tall as Shugoki, and his lock-on walk looks really cool. Also, he sprints a lot faster than I thought he would. I don't know why that stood out to me. He has tons of armor and weapon sets, which will allow you to have your own Black Prior, and it all really fits the dark theme they were going for. The highlight of the stream for me was surprisingly the Shugoki rework. I'm just shocked at how much I actually liked the way it looked, and I think that Yubi did a really good job with it and can see myself having a lot of fun with it. I'm glad for Warlord and Peacekeeper players as well. The changes they received don't really change their playstyles too much, it just takes them less time to finish their opponents. I know that it wasn't what everyone wanted, but they need to work as well. On the show, they also told us that they are working on Lawbringer improvements as we speak, so my guess of a Season 10 release is still on the table. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. Season 9 starts a week from today, and I'm looking forward to it. To me, Vortiger looks cool, and I'll be using him on release. We won't really know too much until we can get our hands on him though. I will make a follow-up video if we find anything out about how fast his attacks are or find out anything new. But I do want to hear from you guys, so talk to me down in the comments about anything we talked about in this video. Again, the 31st is when Season 9 launches, and you'll have access to everything except Vortiger unless you buy the Year 3 pass. And as always, if you like the video, feel free to leave a like if you're new, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.